So why do I believe? Well, I was the guy who needed to see things first before believing. Sure, I always felt there's more to life. I never said that this was it, but God? Jesus? The devil? Are you kidding? It's bullcrap. I decide what happens, not anybody that we can even see. What's going wrong? And Jesus wants you to be free, right? That's what he says. He won't let you do anything. You can't drink, you can't have fun, go out with the ladies, smoke some weed. Oh, you can't swear, and you call that free. Yeah, that was me. I will actually come back to this later in this video, and I'm going to talk about what happened to me personally, but it's important that you know that I really have the answers for all these crazy questions that I had, because boy, I was completely wrong. This, what I'm going to talk about right now, is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more stuff out there. Okay, so let's start with the beginning. I was very sick as a kid. Horrible eczema, skin disease, and severe asthma. So every 5 or 6 weeks, I will be in bed for a week with an asthma attack. And like 3 days of that week, I wouldn't be able to even eat because I simply couldn't breathe. Now, I won't go into the bullying because that's nothing to do with this story, but I'm telling you this because I was taking insane amounts of medication at the time. Medication that we later found out really affected my memory. So I don't remember a lot from my childhood. I remember vacations with the family, but many details are gone. I remember being bullied, but you know, the faces are gone. Even though, you know, later on I made a list with all the bullies, and then later in life I got all the bullies back. But that's a whole different story. But there's one story that really sticks out, extremely vividly. So, when I was 10 years old, I was sitting in the classroom. And this, I mean, you can bring me to the classroom right now. You can put me, I can point out where I was sitting, what tree I was talking about, because I'm looking outside the window and I'm looking at a tree. And the teacher is trying to get a hold of me. But he doesn't get a hold of me because I'm so mesmerized with that tree. And I hear the kids laugh and I hear them talking about me, so I know he's trying to get a hold of me, but somehow I'm completely locked into that freaking tree. So suddenly he screams, "Hey, Rutten!" And I go, "Yes, what?" He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm looking at that tree." He says, "What about the tree?" He says, "Where did it come from?" And he says, "They planted it there, stupid." And I go, "I understand that. But you know, if you go to the tree before, and the tree before, and the tree before, you go all the way back, where do trees come from?" Now I'm going to leave you hanging with this story because this is going to come back later. As I said, lots of bullying. I was a loner. I only had a few friends who also got bullied, and that's of course how we all connected. When I heard about the out-of-body experiences, I was about 17 years old. NDE, near-death experiences. It was about people who were dead. You know, they went to heaven or hell, came back to life, and then the largest percentage of them all had the same freaking story. And then, of course, science trying to deny that. It's a chemical in the brain that gets released, letting us believe that there is a heaven, so it's easier for us to die. Whatever explanations they had, it was too crazy. Now, at that time, I was far away from the church. I didn't care, right? Although I was baptized, I did my confirmation, but my family stopped going to church when I was about 12 years of age. Now, me being bullied because I was the leper at school all made me think, come on, there is no God. I mean, if there's a God and the only one's good, right, why do I have all these ailments? And why do I get bullied? I mean, this isn't fair. So I thought exactly like many others did. But, like I said, I have an answer to that question now, but that's for later. Now, I actually got so cast out that I wanted to be part of something badass. Oh yeah, I really tried to make a pact with the devil, I'm telling you. Just to make me a badass, 666. This is what everybody did. By the way, if you see a famous person do this, like a musician, a politician, an athlete, whatever, watch out because they might worship the devil. Yeah, I know. I thought that was a lot of crap too, but now I know this is actually for real. If you don't believe it, Google it. Satanic rituals, drinking blood, torturing, but again, I understand what you're thinking right now. It's freaking crazy. Trust me on this though. This is 100% true. Now, as a kid, I was thinking that people would be afraid of me if I would side with the devil, because everybody, of course, is afraid of the devil. And this is what cast outs do. You know, they try to join the scarier side because we're very angry at people who scare us, and that's why we want to join something, whatever it is, in order to scare them. We were just really weak-minded in the mind. Now then, when I was about 22 years old, I read this article about a surgeon who worked in the AR in Holland. This was a big story because this was all verified by other people. This was, by the way, in 1987, when people didn't lie as much as they are doing right now. Now, this surgeon had people die on the operating table, and then he and his team, some of them, he brought them back to life. And almost all of them had the exact same story. They would feel themselves leave their bodies, and then they would float all the way against the ceiling above the lighting for the surgery, and they would look down on the surgeon and the nurses. And then, when they would wake up, they could literally tell the surgeon which nurse he asked what, and what tool did he ask from that nurse, like really detailed stuff from the surgery. But the surgeon thought, maybe it's possible that, they still are able to hear or to listen to us even after having general anesthesia. So he never really paid attention to it. But then one time, he had this patient who died, and he came back. But he didn't wake up right away. So that patient woke up in his hospital room, and now he was there with his family present, who immediately called the surgeon. And this was a welder story, like very freaking crazy. Like the others, he was floating against the ceiling, looking down, also knew what tools the surgeon gave to what nurse, detailed information, but then he started floating away. And he floated a couple of rooms further away, where he saw his family all stressed out. His mom was there, his brother, mom and dad, his brother, there was a neighbor with him, and they were talking about things. But then he said suddenly, listen, I know this is all made up, it's all in my head, because I saw Dad smoke, and we all know that Dad doesn't smoke. Well, everybody freaked out, because in all the stress, the dad actually asked the neighbor for a cigarette, so he was smoking. And then later on, he also confirmed all the things they were talking about. He was exactly right with everything. Okay, so the surgeon heard this, and he goes, okay, this is real. What can I do to verify all this, So he decided to do a project on his own, didn't tell anybody about it. He put on the top of the lighting for the surgery, he put these symbols with black tape. He made like a square, a triangle, and then like a cross with tape, like 4 freaking crosses. So the surgeon, then of course this happened again. A guy said he was floating above the lighting, and the surgeon asked him if he saw something weird. He goes, what do you mean? He said, well, did you see anything on top of the lighting? And he said, yeah, actually, that was really weird. He said there was a square, a triangle, and some star-looking thing. Boom! That woke the surgeon up. And that story also woke me up, because now we know there is a soul that leaves the body. I mean, every person who had a near-death experience, they will talk about the fact that they get pulled back into their bodies. Now, some people right now still don't believe it. I understand this, don't worry about it, but just know that you saying it's not true doesn't make it not true. Just think about this. From the millions and millions of near-death experiences all around the world, if only one would be true, it's true. Plus, this is not an isolated incident, right? There are thousands of stories like this, thousands from around the world. Now, everything is a race in the world, right? The fastest person, strongest man, smartest man, slowest animal, fastest animal. I mean, everything. We are obsessed with racing and winning and being the best, and more importantly, being the very first person to do something. But let's talk about the soul. When do we get a soul? Well, many people, and myself included, believe that happens when the sperm enters the cell at conception, right? I just said that everything is a race in life. Well, there you go. That's your very first race, actually, that you had in your life. Swimming to the egg. Millions of sperm cells, they want to go to the egg, and the fastest one, well, he's going to get it. Not the loser, and there's also no participation trophies for the losers. You lose, you die, but you lose without a soul, though. You see, at the moment of conception, scientists have been recording a flash of light. That started in 2011, they discovered that. Here's what it looks like, so you can double check it later on, but this is exactly what it looks like at the moment a sperm cell gets into the egg. Check this out. Now that flash is what many people, including me, believe the soul entering the body. Now does us believing that make it true? No, we can all be wrong. But logic tells me, and many others, that this is when life starts. In all the near-death experiences, people are walking towards the light. God is light. Light is good. Light is life. Light destroys darkness. We leave our bodies and go into the light. And at conception, that's where light comes into us. The flash. And what about the third verse in the Bible? Let there be light, right? And sure, scientists say it's a flash that comes from zinc, but there's a flash, there's light. Where does the zinc come from? Does it need to be a flash that closes off the egg so other sperm cells can't enter? Because that's, of course, what scientists believe is the reason. Why doesn't it simply close without a flash? Yep, many questions. Now, after hearing this, when you still say, there is no soul, that's okay, you know, it's no problem at all. You're just risking eternity, who really cares, right? Now, imagine heaven is real. And the only thing you have to do to get up there, heaven, I mean, is to be a good person to yourself and to others. Wow, that sounds pretty easy, right? It's actually extremely hard to do. I mean, just look at the world. Look at how you treat yourself. 40% of the people are obese. No, boss, that's overweight. No, that's another 34% who are just overweight. 7% are extremely obese. Listen, this is really bad for your health. Same as drinking, doing drugs, smoking, vaping, chewing, you name a vice. None of those are good for your health. And that's how you treat yourself. So, first start with that, and then good luck with treating others better. So again, the question that I'm asking you constantly, are you willing to risk eternity for it? Eternity, so let's talk about eternity before I go further. Our average age on this planet is 73.1 years old. So if you had 85 years, you can say you had a pretty great time here on Earth, right? So where we believe we're going is not 85 years, not 85,000, 85 million, not billion, trillion. It's way more than that. It's forever. There is no number for forever. And the reason is that time simply stops to exist. We have time and space here on Earth. Once we cross over, there is no time. So are you willing, again, to risk eternity for it? But boss, come on. Why do you believe that? Why do you believe the universe is created? You want a short answer? Because I simply believe that something cannot come out of nothing. It's impossible. The only way that something can come out of nothing is that when there is a force that is so strong that can actually create something out of nothing. You see, just by itself, nothing can come out of nothing. That's how it is. And I'll leave it like this here. I have way more for that, but that's for a different video. Okay, so let's go back. The surgeon story with the person who came back to life and told him about the symbols he saw on top of the lights. To me, that's pretty freaking important, because that means that there is a soul leaving the body. That flash at conception, to me and many others, that's also where the soul enters your life. So let's continue and start talking about what happened to me when I moved to America in 1997. So first we moved to a house, we stayed there for a year, then we moved to an apartment, stayed there for a year, and then we went back to a house again, this time in Westlake Village, California. And as soon as we came to that house, we knew there was something in that house, like a spirit. We found out it was the prior owner of that house who passed away there. My daughter actually could see her. It was an older lady. My youngest daughter, she was way too young at that time. I could see her walk. My daughter told me one time that she was playing outside and she could see her from inside the house looking through the window outside. She could describe what she looked like. So one night I went to the restroom, and I always sit down when I pee so I don't have to turn the light on, and it's going to wake me up, right? But it's in the dark, it's really hard to to find the mark. And the missus doesn't really like it when you start peeling all over the floor. So I'm sitting down and I'm literally looking at the door and I see my wife passing by. So I assumed she was going to go to the kitchen to get some water or something. But then when I went back to bed, my wife was in bed. Grabbed the gun, went through the house, freaking looking, because 100% certain I saw a person walk. But there was nobody there. And it wasn't out of the corner of my eye that I was looking down and I saw a person. I was literally looking and I just see the person passing by. And then this started happening. I'm still thinking about how many times. I would say 5 or 6 times. Probably could have been 4 or 5 as well. But what I do know is it freaked the hell out of me. Sleep paralysis is what people would say. One problem with that though, I was awake and I could move, partially. I'll explain. So in the middle of the night, I would wake up from something, I don't know what, and then suddenly I would, my chest would get pushed in the bed. Like somebody's sitting on it, but my whole upper body. Now I could move my arms, but not like this, but I could do this, so nothing would sit on my side. It was also, I could move my legs, so I was really trying with my legs to throw the legs out of bed and then try to pull myself out. Maybe I could do a sit-up. It would smother me. And I couldn't breathe because I couldn't move my chest. And then I would just, the only way for me to get out of it was to close my eyes, to get really freaking angry, and then I would explode. And of course, at that time, I was using a lot of profanity. In the middle of the night, my wife would wake up again, and she goes, "Again?" I go, "Yeah, again." And I got so angry at it, you know. I said, whatever, I challenged it right away. I will go like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. Don't wait till I'm in the freaking REM sleep or whatever you wait. Don't sucker punch me. Bring it down to my level. Let's freaking fight, coward. Now this happened, like I said, between 2002 and 2006, I think. Very memorable. It was so scary because I thought that pressure was literally suffocating. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die. Now, against every other living person, I think I have a pretty good fighting chance. But I had nothing against this guy. Freaked me completely out. Now, there was a spot in the house where it was always cold. And sometimes there was a weird smell as well. It was in the dining room. It had a chandelier hanging there. Now, one day, I came home with the family. So, this is around 9 o'clock at night, right? I'm coming home with the family. I open the door. And I tell my wife, somebody's in the house. And she goes, "What do you mean?" I say, "I feel somebody's in the house." So I grab my phone. It was one of those StarTech phones. You remember the flip phones? I dialed 911. I say, "Hit send as soon as you hear some commotion in the house." I said, "Don't worry about me. I know where the weapons are. I know everything." Okay, cool. So I'm going into the house. And I thought that person was in the dining room area. So we had a wall here. Here below was the kitchen. Here was an open kitchen. And then here was a dining room on this side of the wall. And in the dining room, instead of a door, there was a thick curtain hanging there in the doorpost. So I thought this person was on this side of the wall. So what I did, I started walking here, making a lot of noise, hoping that this person would go this way. And then, of course, I make a U-turn, catch the freaking guy. So I come around the corner sprinting, and while I'm around the corner, I see the curtain, which was this thick curtain, flying up against the ceiling. So I kept sprinting because somebody just ran through it. But there was nobody in the house. That one really freaked me out. And it was not like freaking you out that you go like, "Oh my God, oh my God." But you know, once you see something in front of you flying up against the ceiling, I know, I got every person telling me, "Oh, maybe the windows were open." Dude, don't be stupid. You know, like, I'm not a freaking idiot. You know, first of all, when I leave the house, everything is locked. I'm meticulous about that. I check everything 3 times. I was driving. I wasn't drinking. You know, all these things, all the questions have been there. This was very prominent. Trust me. So now I'm freaking out because now I've been personally attacked by a spirit a bunch of times, and now I've seen this curtain flying. I know 100% something is there. So I decided to drive it out, do an exorcism. And not like Jesus Christ compels you. I didn't even use the word Jesus. I didn't do anything. I just challenged it. I went to that spot with the chandelier where we had the weird smell, what I told you before, and it was always cold. And there at just at 3 a.m. at night. Why would I choose 3 a.m. at night? I mean, I didn't know anything about the faith. Well, I come to find out that later on they told me, well, Jesus passed away at 3 p.m. and 3 a.m. is where the demonic activity is at its peak. Somehow I knew, I was doing it at 3 a.m. I just went there for like 45 minutes an hour and I challenged it. I said, listen, bring it down to my level, make yourself physical so we can do something, make it a fight. If you're a tough guy, let's do this thing. And then some really weird, it never happened again. Okay. Next, then I had my last fight in 2006, right? 2006 and my last fight after 7 years of not competing. Once I was done with the fight, it was my biggest payday ever, and trust me, it's nothing like these guys make right now. They all go like, oh, Bas is a millionaire. No, it's not true, that's absolutely not true. But it was enough money to go to a different house where we would have a pool as well, because I always wanted a pool. So we moved to the house in 2007. And the very first day, my daughter asked if she could sleep upstairs. I said, okay, for tonight you can do it, because she had all the bears and whatever was upstairs, and she liked to sleep there, for her first night. Put a little air bed there. And the next day we're waking up and we're having breakfast all together, and I asked my girls, hey, how was the first night? And the girl that slept upstairs said, it was nice, but I had a visit from 2 boys. And I go, whoa. I mean, you mean spirits then, right? She says, yes. I go, honey, you're not freaking out, because she was always open to this kind of stuff. And she goes, no, they were very nice. One kept playing on the bed the whole time. And then I asked her, could you please stop, because I want to go to sleep. So I'm looking at my wife. I go, this is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So I go downstairs. I jump on my computer and I type in if something ever happened close to my house. Well, in 2001, 4 kids, 1 girl, 3 boys. Oh, by the way, I asked what age? 16, 17 years of age, she said, around that age. So 4 kids spun out of control on Christmas, poor parents, man, went through our wall. Like, we're walking outside and we see where they repaired the wall. 2 boys died, 1 16 and 1 17-year-old. Okay, now we know something's really going on. Okay. Spirits, all the confirmation that I have, there's more to life. Fast forward. Now suddenly it's 2014. I'm shooting a movie. I'm in Las Vegas. And we're at the Wynn Hotel. And in the break, a friend of mine says, hey, Bas, you want to stay here? It's in the cabana. We can smoke a cigar. We eat something, you can drink a Coke. There's AC in the freaking cabana. And we have this guy coming, and he will talk about how life got all together. And I go, oh, that's interesting. Now, if he would have told me, hey, Bas, we have a guy here who's going to talk about God or Jesus, I would have said, I'm good. I'm upstairs. I'll see you after the break. But he didn't say that. He said, somebody's going to talk about how the world came together. Okay. I'm sitting there. We eat something. Guy starts talking. Leo Severino is his name. And the first thing, and this was really weird, he says, the leaf fell from the tree. I go, okay. He says, that leaf just reached its end destination. He says, let's backtrack that leaf. Let's go where it came from. And he goes back to the branch, and then he goes to the tree before, and he goes to the tree before, and he starts backpedaling on trees. And I'm starting to think, I say, where do I know this story from? Because I heard this story before. And that was it. It was when I was 10 years old, the only freaking story from that whole school that sticks out in my mind, so very vivid. It was almost like God planted a seed in my head, and he says, hey, you don't know what to do with it now, but like in 40 years from now, this is going to come back, and you'll have an experience. And the way Leo started backtracking that tree, and then eventually getting to like a freaking pretty much 100% solid proof of the existence of God, of a designer, because that's what he said first. Well, that was it for me. A designer. Well, that's got to be God. One thing I forgot to tell you, just before, when we were in the new house, we changed the whole backyard. We made it very beautiful. Ernesto, who was building everything and later became a friend of us, he asked me if it was okay to put a religious tile on the wall where we had water coming down. I mean, if you see that backyard flagstone, it was really cool. So he asked me for religious tile that he could put on the wall where we had water coming down. Okay, so after that story with Leo, I got back to the faith. A year later, we got married again, my wife and I, in St. Therese Church in Alhambra. I was there one time to watch a speaker. The great Scott Hahn was there. And I just loved that church, you know, the way it looked and everything. Something made me pick that church over the church that I went weekly to, and which I love. I mean, St. Jude's in my town, Westlake Village. I love Father Jim. Somehow, I chose St. Therese. Now, oh, this is a funny story, by the way. This is very funny. Just to break the ice a little bit. So what happens when you get married for the church, for the Catholic faith? I was married before, but not for the faith. The priest wants to interview you, and he wants to interview your spouse. And you have to do it separated, right? So I was married before in Holland, and my ex-wife's name was José. So he's asking me, have you ever been married before? I say, yes, but it was not for the church. He says, okay, what was her name? I say, José. He says, how do you spell it? I say, J-O-S-E. And he's writing it down, and I see him struggling, and I have no clue what's going on. And he's getting like very uncomfortable, and suddenly he looks up to me and he says, you were married to a man. And I started laughing. Jose, I go, yes, of course. Hey, that's Juan El Guapo. Man, it was the most funny. I said, no, don't worry about it. Jose is a very common name in Holland for a female. But it was just a little funny thing, a little side note. Okay, so one evening, I'm sitting outside in my beautiful backyard, you know, and I'm doing my examination of conscience. And what that is even when you don't believe, it's a good thing to do for yourself, right? I always say, even when you're an atheist, you don't need to be a douchebag, right? I mean, actually, all my atheist friends are, well, they're my friends, so they're good guys. It's always the ones who are not 100% convinced if it's real or not who make the derogatory statements. I actually have another video about that, but I'm not going to go all deep into that. But what I'm doing so is the examination of conscience. You go over your day. What did you do wrong? How can you stop that from happening again? What did you do right? How can you make that right even better? Maybe there's something that you didn't do that I should have done. All these things are good for your mind to go over and to make sure that you don't make these mistakes anymore. So I'm sitting outside, I'm doing that. It's September 30th. It's like 11:30 p.m. I'm looking behind me and I see the tile that Ernesto, you know, the holy tile on the wall. So I make a picture of it and I send it to Leo, the guy, you know, the smart theologian from the leaf fell from the tree. And I asked him, I say, who is this? And he sends me back a text and he says, St. Therese. I go, oh, that's weird. We got married in the St. Therese church. Why did I choose that church again? Because it's much further away from where I live. My wife's witness at the wedding, her name was Thierry. Her patron saint was St. Therese. She was actually named after St. Therese, Thierry. Is that a coincidence? Anyway, I continue with my examination of conscience, and I'm done. And then I thought, you know what? Let's learn about St. Therese. So I grab my phone, I start Googling. Now, while I'm reading this, it turns to October 1st. Turns out that St. Therese passed away on September 30th when I started reading, and October 1st is her feast day. I go, okay, sure, these are mathematical impossibilities. I mean, far from it, right? It's 1 in 365. But also the fact that I started reading at 11:50 and then goes into the 1st of October. All these things, picking that church, my wife's witness, all these little things. Why did I go to St. Therese? Very interesting. Now, why the Catholic faith? There have been so many incidents in the church. Why would you support something like that, boss? Well, I don't support that. I know 100% there's been a lot of wrong. Listen, if you want to have a very simple, good answer, watch the video that I made, Why the Catholic Faith? But for you right now, in one simple sentence, I follow the principles that Jesus Christ established, not what bad people in the church have done in between. Again, full explanation to all your questions will be in that different video over there. Okay, so let's talk about a few things that I have experienced and later thought that had to be divine intervention. I fell out of a tree one time. I was a crazy tree climber, right? As a kid, I was always in the forest. I could, from treetop to treetop, I could swing pretty much throughout the whole forest. There was only like 5 places I had to go down. I was very good at it. My bullies would come, I would climb in a tree, they would follow me. I start swinging to a different tree, they couldn't do it. Boom, I got rid of the bullies. This time I'm like talking 25 feet high, tall freaking tree. I make a mistake by swinging to another tree. The branch breaks. I'm falling down 25 feet. You know how I landed? Like this. On my feet. Like that. You know why? I fell down through all the branches, and with the last branch was a branch like this thick, with my butt, hit the branch. Somehow I hit it at the perfect spot that branch completely broke off. It broke my fall. I landed literally like this. It was the most freaking crazy thing I've ever seen in my life. Another incident. I used to have really bad cars because I didn't have any money. So I met my wife in '92. And I was driving some Buick, which was overheating. Now, that happened many times to me because, of course, I never had money for a great car. So what I would do, I would take a big cloth, a towel, I would fold it a few times, put it on there, open it up, lift the pressure off, right? And then once the pressure is off, fill it up with cold water, we can hit the road. Did that maybe like 8 times already, always the same thing. I'm standing with my wife there, she's standing next to me at the car, and I'm putting this thing on, and suddenly it went, I said, why don't you go stand behind me somewhere? And she walks behind me, I turn it up, and I had no control. I mean, it was a stream so thick, boiling water, exactly at the spot where she was standing. It flew across the street. Incredibly powerful, all the way to the other side. Why would I had suddenly that thing? It never happened before. And I just looked at her and say, move somewhere else. Car accident. You heard me talking about my car accident. On the freeway, I won't go in why and then what happened. Started raining, I started spinning. I had a car for my wife. We were not wearing any seat belts, me and my buddy. We started spinning like crazy, fly over the crash barrier. There's a hill going down. There's trees. There's not many trees, but there's trees. We go bung, 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 bung. In slow motion, I see my friend going back and forth in the car. I mean, his skin was on the back windows. His skull was open. I grabbed him, I put him in my guard, put him here, and we see slow motion going down. And the only thing I'm focusing on is don't see this, like the Terminator, you know, that white dot. Don't see that, don't see that, don't see that. We land up upside down in the water. I don't know how deep the water was. Later on, it was like 3 feet only. But listen, you're freaking out because you don't know. It could be very deep. Upside down in there, water starts coming in. My body is knocked out. I have to kick the windows out, pull him out. I had nothing. I had a scratch here. Not even mentioning. Like the next day we went to the car. The wheels, they were like this. The steering wheel was like that in the car, so I was holding the steering wheel while we shot into the spin, completely bended, a 90-degree angle. The roof was off. The guy was freaking out there at the garage. He goes like, how are the people who were in the car? I go, I was driving. He goes, you got nothing. I go, I got a scratch. Look, I got a scratch here. That was it. Another one. How is this even possible? My father is driving. We're in Amsterdam or in Rotterdam, one of the two. And there's a lot of people riding a bicycle. And suddenly somebody's swerving a little bit, so my father's already thinking about it, and suddenly he comes to the side. So my dad hits the brake, completely okay, nothing happened, not even close, everything was okay. The guy goes to the side, my father wants to hit the gas, and at that moment, from the back of a truck, I don't know what this woman was thinking with a stroller, she just walks on the street. And my dad, of course, saw her and hit the brake. If that person in front, because I was freaking out, and my dad saw her freaking out, I said, Dad, you understand that if that guy wouldn't have swerved on the road, you would have nailed her full on. I mean, nobody saw her coming. Those are the things that you think to yourself, is that divine intervention? Why would this happen at a certain moment? Because for sure we would have nailed her. Falling out of the tree, crazy accident with the water. And there's many more of those incidents that we all believe, oh, it's by chance, you know, you've just been lucky. But then when you start thinking about it, there's always something in the back of your head goes like, why? Why would I stop suddenly? And I go, you know what, step to the side. And then it explodes that way. Things you should think about and things you should really acknowledge because they're there. I truly believe there's a loved ones who are steering you and directing you a little bit. So all these things together, the stories from people, the near-death experiences, thousands of them, all have the same basic story, right? The curtain in front of me flying up, seeing a person walk, the physical attacks, the kids who passed away, who drove through the wall at my home and that were visiting my daughter. Nobody knew about that. My daughter didn't know about these kids. You know, at hospice care, you know, people who work there, they know when a person will die within a few days. You know how they know? Ask them. Because they catch them having conversations with their loved ones who already passed away. This is a big thing. You can ask any person who works hospice because that's the answer you're going to get. And I know there's way more questions, but those are different videos that I made. And please know, I'm not a doctor of the church, first of all, right? With me is you get what I think. I'm pretty sure some of the things the church is not okay with it, but it's true and it's real. Questions like, why is there heaven and hell? Why do we experience earth? What is the reason we actually are on earth? Why did I choose the Catholic faith with all the scandals in the church? Why do atheists get angry at Christians and feel the need to respond to posts that Christians make? All those questions I'm going to answer in different videos that I'm going to make. And they're going to be made very soon. But all this that I talked about, why I believe life is peanuts compared to where we're going, is, well, the story that I just did. I always had a hole in me that I couldn't fill. I tried, you know, drive a Porsche, another Beamer, and all these big watches and nice suits and the gadgets, latest phones, and all stuff that you can buy, but you can't buy happiness. We're confusing happiness with pleasure. Pleasure is a never-ending hole you can't fill. It's impossible. And all that stupid stuff that you buy is not particularly for yourself. It's also to project to the people because you want the people to think a certain way about you. I know, because I was there. I did all that stupid stuff. And boy, I completely feel different now, detached from a lot of crap that is not necessary. Listen, a martial arts friend of mine, Sam Greco, the great karate guy and K1 fighter, right? He's an animal, really good fighter, had a heart attack. You know what he said when he had a heart attack? He said, boss, all the things that I have, my cars, my houses, and all the cool stuff that I thought was the reason for living, nothing comes up in your mind. It's the only thing you think about is, did I tell my family I love them? Did I do this? Did I make enough people happy? Was I good for my parents? I mean, those are the questions that come up. So if you want to make sure that those questions, when they come up, that you have a good answer, start living different. It's a big difference, guys. I mean, what it did for me, what it did to my friends. I have friends who are known, very known, famous guys with power, you know. And most of them, I gotta tell you, not very happy. But there's a few Catholics in between those guys, and guess what? They feel happy. Weird, right? So start thinking about getting your life in order, you know. And even if it's not true, like I said before, the only thing that you need to do is to be a good person to yourself and to others. That's it. Godspeed, everybody, and party on. In moderation, though.